54 holes, 0 bogeys, one career-defining victory. After years of battling debilitating injuries and even stepping away to work as a substitute teacher, Maddie McCrary didn't just win in Orlando, she put on a masterclass in resilience. Is your own comeback just one bogey-free mindset away? If so, you're in the right place. Join us now on the Women of Golf Show.
The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network. The Women of Golf Show is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, with insightful reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, helping you improve your game from tee to green. Good morning, welcome to the Women of Golf, the #1 women's golf show around the world, with host Ted Odorico and Cindy Miller. Join them as they interview some of the best players from the Epson, LPGA and Legends Tour, and so many others helping to elevate women's golf. So without further ado, here are your hosts, Ted and Cindy.
All right, welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm Ted Odorico, joined by LPGA professional Cindy Miller, and we are your hosts of the Women of Golf Show. We're rolling out our 13th season, and today's episode is dedicated to the ultimate bounce back. First, we're going to head to the winner's circle to talk with the champion of the inaugural Orlando Health Championship, Maddie McCrary. And then we're going to head into the no BS zone to have a real talk about the elite measuring stick. Are you destroying your confidence by comparing your weekend game to the Sunday leaders? It's all happening right now on season 13, episode 4. All right, we're going to head to the winner's circle. We're glad to have our special guest, and let me just introduce her a little bit more, and then we'll have her join us here for the show. Joining us today, as I mentioned, is a woman who just proved that the path to success is rarely a straight line. From NCAA standout to professional grind through surgeries and substitute teaching, she just captured her first professional title in spectacular fashion. Of course, I'm talking about Maddie McCrary, a former Oklahoma State University standout and 3-time All Big 12 honoree who transitioned to the professional ranks here in just 2018. So, Maddie, welcome to the Women of Golf Show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
We're glad to have
you here.
Yeah. So congratulations from both of us, obviously,
Thank you.
on your win. It was a tough one. I'm going to do the honorable thing, despite being thrown under the bus by my co-host before going live. I'm going to do the honorable thing and let her go first. So, Cindy, you go ahead. I know you've got some questions for Maddie.
So tell us about the win.
Oh, gosh, it was amazing. It's stuff that I dream of. But what really surprised me is how peaceful it was. I always thought I was going to be, shaking in my boots. But it was one of the most peaceful days that I've ever had on the golf course.
Really?
Yes.
Why do you think? What was your mindset?
I just invited Jesus into the space. He is my Lord and Savior. I remember the second day I was a little bit nervous. My hands were shaking, but I prayed over my hands. I prayed over my body. And I'm like, God, I really, really want this, but it's all for you and all for your glory. And I was just out there walking with him. I had a great day, played with Marielle, and she's super sweet. And just the peace that came over me, I can't understand it, but it all comes from him.
Well said.
Wow, I've done that too, but it's never worked.
It hasn't always worked, but
I have a little issue with control. It might be my favorite word. Forgive me, Lord. I'm sorry. Wow. Really?
Yes, it was.
Melanie Green says the same thing.
Yep.
I need to be slapped.
Happy
Really?
to oblige.
Yes. And I wouldn't say it's always
ahead, Ted.
like that. It's always in his timing. I've had a lot of tragedy in the past last year, and just having this win and having that peace just really is not something I understand, but I will soon understand it later.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you just said whatever is?
What's that?
You said whatever happens, happens.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I remember my warm-up being really, really slow. Nobody was on the range, and it was me just last hitting balls, and I generally felt always a little nervous in that position. I feel like I needed to have like a fast warm-up. I feel like I needed to be somewhere else when I wasn't. But it was just the most peaceful day. I cannot explain it.
I need to listen to this,
Yeah.
even though I'm not playing anymore. Wow, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
how many did you win by? Forgive me for not looking.
Oh no, you're good. I won by one. Yes. One by
Did you
one.
have to birdie the last hole, or were you leading going into the last? Give us a scoop.
Yeah, so I was leading by one going into the last hole, and it was a reachable par 5. They moved the tees way up, and there was water right and left. And I thought about, laying up, hitting iron, and then Marielle, she hit driver. She was teeing off first, and I was like, I have to hit driver. Like, there's no point in me trying to lay up and try and, do the conservative play. And I knew I still had to be aggressive, and I stayed in the process, hit 2 really good shots, hit my second shot from 180 to a par 5, just 15 feet below the hole. Great shot, probably one of the shots of, my career. And then Marielle, she hits it to the back of the green and makes a 60-footer for eagle. And I was so happy for her. She played great all day. I did know where I stood, though. I had to make, a 15-footer, just 2-putt and get out of there for the win. I left it just a little bit short and, made birdie. But yeah, it was really great. It was a lot of fun, and it was just a great day.
That is awesome. So this was your first win.
This was my first one, yeah, on that Epson tour, yeah.
And when do you play again?
I will play my open qualifier, the 20th in Galveston.
Awesome. And have you played in the open before?
I have not. No.
You have not?
Not yet.
It's very fun.
I'm so excited.
Total abuse. Be ready.
I'm ready for it. I love to.
Do you hit it long?
I would say I'm pretty average, but I hit the driver pretty straight.
That's all you need. You can straight them to death.
Yes.
And with your attitude and with the Lord above, you'll be just fine.
Yes.
Don't let anybody mess with you.
I definitely won't.
Don't ask for advice from me, because I have the word control too high on the list. Go ahead, Ted. You can talk now.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for parting the Red Seas. So what I wanted to ask you, Maddie, I want to talk about that for a second, just very briefly, about your faith, because what's interesting, as we talked about, we've had Melanie on the show, and obviously she's very, very prophetic about her faith as well. Is there kind of and I don't want to say a movement, but it seems that there's a lot of young players like yourself that seem to all of a sudden, and I'm not saying you personally, but I'm saying all of a sudden really adopting their faith. Are you seeing kind of a trend starting to happen now? And is it something that's happening in your generation that they're recognizing or turning to God as, I don't want to say a confidant, but a source of comfort? Or what is it, do you think, that's driving that? Because we're starting to see more and more players do that. What do you think it is? I mean, it may be something different for you personally, but what do you think that is?
Yeah. What the world provides, it's not fulfilling at all. Jesus is the ultimate fulfillment. And speaking on the Epson tour, like, our community out there for Bible study has grown so much. I think just co-leading it and things like that, like, it's gone from when I first got out there to a couple players, like 2 or 3. Now we have like almost 30 people coming on a regular basis, with it being staff, with it being caddies and stuff like that. And it's just been beautiful. I think just what God provides, it's just the peace out there. We really need that. The lifestyle is very, very tough, from traveling to, staying in different people's homes. It gets very lonely. And I remember my first week this year was really, really tough. And just leaning on the Lord has just given me so much, joy and comfort. And I think that's what a lot of people are searching for, and they can't find it in this very secular world. And they need to turn to Jesus. They need to know him. And, he's just done so much for me in my life. And that's what I go out there and tell people. I'm like, hey, like, Jesus has done this for me. I've gone through multiple surgeries. I've searched the world for, all of this different stuff, but it can't provide. Only he can. And so I think a lot of people are noticing that and coming to him. And I think Jesus is coming back very soon. So I'm just trying to spread the gospel and spread the good news. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for.
That's incredible, to go from a couple of players to now all of a sudden, 30 plus players in such a short period of time. And it's obviously continuing to grow. I think you're right. I think everybody in general, but I think particularly our youth and future generations are really looking for answers, and they're not getting them, as you said, in the mainstream. I just wanted to ask you that because I've noticed a trend. We've had a few players, not just yourself, but Melanie, and I think it was another one that we heard last year that had come out, and again, the same thing, very positive and very encouraging with their faith. And it's good to hear. We're obviously both people of faith as well, and I think you're exactly right. So well said, and I'm glad and I'm proud that you're willing to bring that out. Cindy, I see you waving. To something you wanted to say?
Is Chris still running it?
She is. Yes. Chris Stevens is my lady. She's
You got to tell her I said hi.
I definitely will. She
was out there when I was out there. Which is 1,000 years ago.
I will definitely.
Not quite 1,000, but tell her I said hi. I love her.
Yeah, how can you not? She's the best.
Yeah. Wow, isn't that something? But see, that's it's so cool because she's so open and just loving, and it's just what you really need out there, because that lifestyle, everybody thinks it's so glamorous, but it's really lonely.
It is.
And it's so hard. And it's so hard for the women because the men have so much more money, and there's so many, their wives go with them and their family, and it's easier, and there's so many more things for the families to do because there's so much more money, and the women are like, oh, I can't afford this, I can't afford that. And it's just, thank God for Chris Stevens.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's starting to change, Cindy. I mean, it's a slow process. It's going to be a monumental lift, but I think you're starting to see some inroads in the women's golf. I'd like to see it happen faster. Personally, I'm we do this show because we're both big supporters of women's golf, and we want to do what we can to help foster that growth. So we're excited about the future of the game, and particularly in women's golf. And we're excited particularly to see young ladies like yourself not just coming out and winning tournaments. I mean, that's all fine and dandy, but really grasping and really promoting their faith and their beliefs and that. And I think it's something that's long overdue for a lot of folks. So kudos to you and the others for doing that. All right, let me ask you, let's get back to golf. We got to talk about golf. This is a golf show. That was our intermediate interlude, if you will. So you had 54 holes playing out in some Florida heat. It's not quite the middle of summer yet, but without a single bogey. So in a game of mistakes.
3 days?
Yeah, hang on, Cindy. Let me get that.
One bogey?
No, none. Not a single bogey. No. So she kept her focus and was very clinical. I hate to use that term, for really 3 days. So how did you do that? How did you manage to, in a game that there's always going to be some mistakes here and there, how did you manage to go bogey free for 3 rounds?
Yeah, what really was just like key for me that week, I stayed in my process every single shot. Generally, I'm a very ADHD person. My mind will go here and there, but it's definitely staying in the process over each and every shot, keeping the ball in front of me, not getting myself in too much trouble. I only missed maybe 2 to 3 greens, if that. So keeping the ball in front of me, hitting greens, getting up and down when I did miss a green was really key for me. Last year I did putt with a broomstick. It was a really big change for me going to a short putter to a broomstick. It was great. It gave me a lot more confidence over the short ones. Before I was, kind of timid on those 3 and 4 footers, not hitting them with confidence. And so I switched to the broomstick, thought it was good. Played in tour school last year, really didn't do too much for me. And then went back to the short putter, started using a line on the ball, which is a huge change for me. I was really not for it at first, but it, has given me some clarity. Last week when I, had like a 10-footer to line up the ball straight, hit the intended line, and that has given me a lot of confidence. So I think just a few of those changes that I did last year in off season really helped me, play well last week.
Yeah, and that's not easy to, a lot of players on tour in the past, seen on the men's as well as the ladies tour, have made equipment changes, gone from a long putter to a short putter, back again, several times. And it's not easy. And people think, well, it's no big deal. What it is.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole different putting style from a long putter, the broomstick, as you said, than it is from a short putter. It's a whole different way you have to approach it. And it's not an easy thing. And when you're out there and you're dependent on making money in a profession, and you're constantly revamping, changing your equipment, it can play havoc. And we've seen that happen with many players. So that's again, kudos to you. I want to get on before we get too close here to having to wrap up in a bit, but you had some issues with your wrist. You've had some injuries. You had a long layoff after that. Tell us a little bit about that. What happened? Was it golf related? Did you hurt it somewhere else? And how long were you off? And what was the motivation for coming back?
Yeah, so I tore my TFCC, which is just on the wrist side below the pinky. I think it was just over time. There was no certain event that really, tore it or anything like that. And then I was having some wrist pain on top, and did a couple MRIs. They did find that the TFCC was torn, but nothing on top. So I, dealt with that for about a year to 2 years, and I was like, enough is enough. I think it's bothering me, it's hurting, and then it's also just kind of affecting my mental game. Like I wasn't able to, hit shots with confidence. And so I was like, I think it's time. I went to tour school thinking I'll be okay, push through with some shots, but no, didn't make through tour school. And I was like, okay, I think it's time to finally, bite the bullet and go get this thing, done. Got it done in off season, hoping that I could, come back mid season. They did find, it was kind of exploratory. They repaired the TFCC, but on the top, they found a lesion in between some muscle fibers that they couldn't see on the MRI. So basically every single time I hit a shot, there was a lesion that would open and close, which was really interesting. It was really painful. I'm glad I did do the surgery. So got it repaired. I was in a cast for about 8 weeks. Got it off. My arm was so skinny as a stick. It was crazy, just how much, the muscle deteriorates and things when you don't use it. Started doing rehab, wasn't, working very well, and got re-put back in a cast to let it heal some more. And during that time, my parents, growing up, they're retired now, but they were both elementary PE teachers. And my dad was like, well, you just can't, sit on the couch. You got to go make some money somehow. So I substitute taught for a while. I have a lot more appreciation for teachers now and for what my parents did. So that was quite interesting. Still doing rehab at that time, and then finally got it taken off, later in the season. So around June, July, finally got it taken off, and then finally started
24 or 5.
That was, so I had that 2022. So I got that taken off. And then started working June, July, kind of rehabbing and things like that, and then finally got better. And then because I wanted to come back into that season, but I knew just with my status it would just be easier for me to take the full medical, and that's what I did. And then just asking, going back to the Lord, be like, hey, the desire to still play is still there. This is not time for me. I don't think it's time for me to step away from the game yet. If it is, please make that known. Have some more clarity for me here. And I hated teaching. It was, it was a blessing. And then I got to go teach and just see that space. I'm like, dealing with little kindergartners and all the way to 4th grade was very humbling. I'm glad I got that experience, but I knew the desire to play golf was still there. So I worked really, really hard in the off season, and then, came back and played well. And it was a real confidence booster just to get back on the golf courses, because it is a blessing. Playing golf for a living is a dream. Like, not a lot of people can say that they can do that, and just, almost taking it away just has a lot more appreciation for the game and for the sport.
I think sometimes, you get taken through life journeys, whatever it may be, whether it's an injury or something else. And the true success about it is, what did I learn from that experience? What it was the takeaway? It's not about, well, I survived. I mean, that's obviously important, but at the same time, it's what lessons did you learn that have now been applied to you moving forward. And I just want to give a shout out to Dad. Thanks, Dad, for getting her off the couch. That's a dad move. Dad moves. Hey, come on. I mean, my father used to do that. We couldn't sleep in our house, it was like, get up. It's weather's beautiful. Didn't matter if it was pouring rain. Get up and do something. Make yourself useful. Rake the leaves, whatever it was. So, dad move. Kudos to you, Dad, for getting your daughter up off the couch. So you sustained an injury that could have really manifested into something worse. Could have potentially even ended your career. There's been players that have had serious injuries, but you muscled through it and you went from, with this win, it's taken you from in the low 60s to the number 2 spot, race for the card. So that has to be a pretty big boost in itself. So my question to you is, you've got the win, you're excited now, you're probably still in a little bit of shock because it was just not this past week, but the week before. What did you learn from that win that's going to help motivate you for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think it definitely makes me more hungrier than ever, to go out and try and do it again. I know that's always difficult because everybody out there is very, very good. Everybody can win on any given day, but definitely just taking the key takeaways of just staying in my process, taking things very slowly, trying not to think that like I need to be in a rush. I've always felt like I needed to be somewhere else when I'm not. Oh, she's doing this. Oh, she's doing this. But just sticking to the game plan of what I've always done. Checking in with my coach, all weekly. My swing can get away from me pretty easily. So just the little reminders of just what I always do, just sticking to the process and relying on the Lord.
Well said. Before I pass it back over to Cindy, let me just say, I think it's important that especially the young people today understand that it's a journey. It's not a race. And I think, like you said, too many people, life gets away from you very quickly, especially as you get, when you're a little kid, you're running around, you're playing, it's all exciting and that. But then there comes a point in time when you got to get off the couch, you got to start, making your own way and things like that. And it can be overwhelming for a lot of people. And there's no real handbook to guide you along the way. You have to learn for your own trials and mistakes and things like that. And it seems like, again, falling back on your faith is help guiding you in some respects. And I think that's fantastic. I'm going to shut up now. Cindy, you go ahead. I know you've got some follow-up questions you want to ask, so all yours.
What do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? I love to go in the gym. That's probably one of a really peaceful place for me to go. I do love, to get better and to get stronger, but it helps my mind just kind of relax. I love my dogs. I have a couple dogs, so always hanging out with them and hanging out with friends and family. I know golfers really don't have too many hobbies, but those are just something I love to do.
Awesome. Where do you live?
I live in Wiley, Texas, so it's just northeast of Dallas. Yep. And then I play and practice out of Sherrill Park Golf Course and Lakewood Country Club. They've been extremely supportive of me, and just super, super happy to have these two clubs let me be able to play and practice there.
That's great.
Yeah.
What a blessing.
Seriously, yeah. Golf is expensive. Range balls are expensive. So having clubs like that welcome me into their space is always great.
That's beautiful.
I agree.
Good, Ted.
Let me ask you this real quick. You said that one of the things that you like to do is just, spend time with friends and, family and your pets and things like that. I want to ask you, outside of golf, if golf was not in the wheelhouse, we know you wouldn't want to go back to teaching because you had enough of the Rugrats. So, and I don't blame you. I've never taught, but I used to do some stuff when I was in school to help They used to get the older kids to volunteer to look after the kindergartens, and they were hellions, let me tell you. So what would you like to do if golf was not in your wheelhouse as a profession? I mean, I'm not talking about as a pastime or as a, something along that lines. If golf was not in your wheelhouse, what would you like to do? What would be your alternate career?
I would definitely love to stay in the industry somehow, whether it's, running tournaments or working at a golf course or something like that.
Like teaching golf?
Not teaching golf. I don't know, for whatever reason, teaching's just not my thing. People have,
Thank you, Maddie, for joining us today. Unfortunately, we have to cut it short. We're going to let you go. No, I'm just kidding. You're talking to two teaching pros here, right? I just thought I'd throw that. Thanks a lot.
Maddie, that's okay. I never wanted to teach either. My husband played on tour for 15 years. He said, I want to teach. I go, teach? What are you, nuts? I don't want to teach. And now I've been teaching for 40 years.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So
go ahead.
It's okay.
Maddie.
It's okay for you to say that.
Yeah, I couldn't resist.
Just be careful who you marry.
Right.
Yeah.
Look out.
Yeah. I definitely, I don't know, whatever, happens, but definitely stay in the industry somehow. Whether it, be teaching or not teaching or just staying in the industry, however it may be. But I love the sport so much. I don't think I could, totally take myself away from it. So, yeah.
What drew you, or better yet, who introduced you to the game? Was it your parents, your father, or mother, or both, or?
So my parents, they put me in a spring break camp, golf spring break camp when I was 5, along with soccer, volleyball, basketball, and all of the things. And the coach that I have today was teaching that spring break camp, which is insane. He's like my second father. So super, super to have him in my life. It was a total God thing. But yeah, that's what I, first really started picking up the sport when I was 5, and then just never stopped from there.
That's great. It's always interesting to hear people's journey into the game. Everybody has their own story, and it's funny that sometimes it's by chance. Sometimes it's, a little bit more, okay, we're going to get you into golf camp. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Sure. And it sounds like your parents introduced you to a lot of different things and then kind of let nature take its course and say, what is Maddie going to gravitate to? And obviously golf, we were grateful for that, or we wouldn't be probably talking to you today. So we're grateful for that. But, if you could change one thing about your game, what would it be?
Ooh, change one thing about my game.
To obviously improve. If there's one thing that, and I don't say it as a flaw, but let's say you have one area of your game that I really wish I could change because I think it would improve or make it better. What would that be?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still working on my putter. I think that's something that I'm growing with a lot. I'm working with a guy, Jeff Gibraltar. Started working with him last season. Great putter. We're working on, getting the ball to the hole a little bit more. I feel like I could have, got the ball to the hole a lot more last week. Just putting with a little bit more confidence. I think golfers are really, really picky. I could sit here and nitpick at my game all day. But that's something that I would love to improve on, and I'm going to continue to grow in. But I would say maybe that I think my driver's always been my strong suit, and so have my irons. So I think definitely just putting with a little bit more confidence is something I'm going to continue to work on.
I think that's a common thread with a lot of players. I think a lot of players could always improve their putting. So that's an easy one. I agree. And just on a side note, for those that maybe tuned in a little bit earlier, you weren't actually putting with a broomstick per se. It's actually a long putter. People are probably getting the visual and they're thinking, he's putting with a broomstick? How does that work? So I just want to clarify that for those people that might tune in. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's a good metaphor, but it's, anyways. Well, Maddie, we want to thank you very much for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. We enjoy your upbeat spirit. We certainly enjoy you sharing your faith as well. That means a lot to us because I think it's important for this day and age that we all are willing and able to do that and spread that word and keep that group growing, keep them growing. But good luck in the weeks and that, and I hope you come back and join us again. We'd love to have you.
Would love to come back. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
all right,
honey. Tell Chris I said hi.
I will.
All right, hang tight, Maddie, for a second. We're just getting started. When we return, we're cutting through the ego and the highlight reels. We're heading into the no BS zone to ask, should elite players ever be used as a measuring stick for your own game? Stay tuned. The Women of Golf Show will be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Hi, I'm Karen Jansen, LPGA Master Teaching Professional and National Academy of Sports Medicine Certified Personal Trainer, and I'm very excited to share with you my Cardio Golf online subscription. Professional golfers know the importance of athletic development for golf. As a recreational golfer, you might not have the time to train like an elite athlete, but by simply adding a few golf-specific exercises and swing drills into your daily routine, you can dramatically improve your game, and you can do it at home with Cardio Golf. I have various pieces of equipment to help you train indoors, away from the golf course, like the Cardio Golf Shorty Club. This club is short so that you can swing inside, you're not going to hit the ceilings or the walls. The Cardio Golf Slope. This is great to simulate an uphill and a downhill lie. You know, the ones that you get on the golf course, but there's nowhere ever to practice. We also use this as a fitness step. I also have various pieces of equipment from Golf Gym, like the Powerball and the Power Bands, to help you improve your strength and flexibility. Join me every week as I take you through workouts that are going to help you shape your swing and trim your score. Start a free trial today. Go to cardiogolf.com.
If mental clutter and inconsistency have been sabotaging your performance, rhythm and tempo phrases could be your breakthrough. These powerful phrases tap into your brain's natural rhythm-motion connection, syncing your swing to tour-level precision. Think of it like your body's instinct to move with the beat. This is scientifically known as sonification. With Audio Golf, we harness sonification to align your swing perfectly with the right rhythm and tempo, elevating every part of your game, from drives to putts. Let's talk about Pat, an aspiring pro. In just one 30-minute session, his leg putting accuracy shot through the roof. It might sound too good to be true, but you can experience it for yourself. Click the link and get access to the free lesson, 15-foot putts in 10 minutes with rhythm and tempo control.
Welcome back, everybody. And this week in the No BS Zone, we're tracking the comparison trap. As they say, we watch the pros every weekend, but is that a healthy benchmark for the average golfer, or are we just setting ourselves up for failure? That is the question that we're going to talk about here in the No BS Zone, Cindy, this morning. So the first thing I want to bring up is sort of the pro versus the amateur gap. Should elite players who hit, in many cases, 70% of the greens, ever be a yardstick for a golfer who plays once a week? Should we ever compare ourselves, if we're an amateur golfer, to the pros? We certainly can get tips from them, but should we really try to compare ourselves? And I think a lot of people, more people than we probably realize, do that. What do you think?
I don't know about comparing. I think you should watch what they do and watch when they speak to their caddy and discuss shots, and watch what the announcers say. Like, here's where the trouble is. Here's where it's not. Here's what he's trying to do to play this shot the smartest way. I don't think amateurs, think smart enough on the golf course. I think they could learn an awful lot if they paid attention to the strategies the pros use when they're out there playing. And I think they should also be aware of the shots that the pros miss as they go into the last couple holes. As if you watched on Sunday, I forgot his name, but he was trying to beat Gary Woodland, and he yanked it. The two guys trying to, and they hit it left of left on the 18th hole, when Gary Woodland hit it right down the fairway and did not hit driver. He was the third to hit, and he changed clubs to hit it down the middle of the fairway. Didn't knock it very close to the pin, had to two-putt from a long way away, which he did and made par. But again, I think you have to watch the strategy and what happens, because that one guy from Europe got nervous, swung too fast, hit it left of left, ended up trying to putt out in front of Gary, and he three-putted, or he made bogey, which good for him. He ended up he was second on his own. I thought when he bogeyed, he was going to be tied for second, which I was going to be sad about, because he played really good. But again, I would watch what happens because you assume these guys are bulletproof. They're not bulletproof. They get nervous too. So
Yeah, and
just don't assume that they're that good. If you watch closely, you're going to watch them miss shots and be nervous and scared and make mistakes.
Yeah, and it brings up to this next point, which I refer to as the highlight reel illusion. And the reason why I say this is, amateurs know that they can't hit it because they don't happen to stick it, close like the pros do. So they feel that they're not very good. And my question is, are we being, and I know this is a bad thing to say, but BS'd by TV coverage in having unrealistic expectations? Like, because you raised an interesting point, you're talking about we need to watch how they're doing it on TV. But the truth of the matter is, we're seeing really two things in the TV reels. We're seeing the really good shots and the really bad shots. We're not getting into, some of them will give their opinions and things, but they don't really know what that golfer's thinking in that particular, when that guy, goes left of left, he doesn't really know. Yeah, he's thinking, oh crap, I just, hit it out of bounds, or I did this. But does sometimes what we are being fed on TV in these tournaments making things unrealistic for the average player? Like, we're giving unrealistic expectations because we're not always seeing the full story. We're seeing little snippets and things like that. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm getting at?
It's the most interesting shots for you to see.
Sure.
And the other thing is, there's probably only 6 to 8 players that you're seeing.
Yeah.
Understand there's 60 or 70 guys that made the cut. And you're not seeing those guys missing shots.
Right.
So you're watching the top 10 best players, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then you're watching the guy who's trying to finish in the top 50 on the points list so he can get into Augusta, and watching him either, pursue his goal or choke his guts out, right? Which I think was Stevens or Kiefer, one of the guys, right, this past Sunday at Houston. But again, the TV guys, the director and the producer are choosing who, go to this guy, go to this guy. They're choosing who to see because they're watching the leaderboard and know what's going on. So yes, you're being misled.
Yeah. And again, I'm not trying to imply that it's, intentionally trying to mislead, but obviously they're going to what's exciting, what they think the viewers are going to want to see. And some guy's schlepping up, the hole, and he's not really doing anything interesting or exciting. They're not going to show that on TV. If the guy shanks it or hooks it or lands it, with a foot from the pin, that's exciting to some people, and they want to, they're going to go where they know the numbers. They know what works and what doesn't work when it comes to television. And it's all about the ratings, what's exciting. And so I get that. But I think sometimes people, when watching, they learn from that, and they're not necessarily extrapolating what really is important. They're just seeing the highlight reels, in other words, as I call it, the highlight reel illusion. And they're not really getting the information, not really doing a deep dive, because they don't have the opportunity to do that in such a short stint. So, and it brings me to this question here, and that is, if the pros aren't the standard, if that's not who we should be sort of measuring, what should we be measuring to actually see improvement in your game? So, as an amateur golfer, I'm not talking with us, but I'm talking about the amateurs out there listening to the show. If we shouldn't really be using them as a measuring stick, what should we, if at all?
Well, it depends on what you want to shoot. Most people don't break 100.
Right.
And they'll come in for a lesson and say, I need to hit my driver farther. I say, okay, what do you shoot? 100. Okay. So can you reach the greens? No, I need to hit my driver farther. Do you measure how many fairways you hit? No. Well, let's start measuring how many fairways you hit. And did you know that if you can't hit the greens in regulation, that if you hit every green in 1 over regulation and you 2-putted every hole, that you would shoot 90? Wait, what do you mean? Well, when you break that down to them, you only need to hit your driver probably 160.
Yep.
Instead of what you think is 250.
Mm-hmm.
What are the odds of you hitting a 250 dead straight every time? Slim and none. How much time are you going to practice? So again, they're looking for something that's way out here that's probably unreachable given the time that they have to practice and the will to practice and the energy to do it and the belief that they can achieve it, right? And let's back it down and find a measurable goal that you can achieve and say, oh, well, let's learn how to get it up and down from within 50 yards. Oh, well, then when you're short of the green, you can get it up and at least two putt within 15, 20 feet.
Yeah.
Now you can change your whole game.
Yeah.
Then we can relax a little bit and you might be able to hit it a little straighter and a little further. Then everything's going to change. Now you might shoot 88, 87, 85, 84, because you're not as,
Well, and you raise a really interesting point because I don't think a lot of people realize this. The National Golf Association has always releases stats every year and throughout the year of the game itself on what people are shooting, the handicaps, things like that. And, you made the statement about most people can't break 100. Well, over 50% of all golfers worldwide can't break 100. Right. Despite all the technology, all of the great teaching that's available out there, they're struggling to break 100. And part of it is because they're chasing what I call a ghost. And that ghost is the 300 yard, the 250 plus, whatever. I would rather have, especially our senior golfers, if you can hit it 180 yards straight, 160 yards straight, that's your game. As opposed to trying to
play the right tees. Don't play the back tees.
Yeah,
move up. Move me up. I'm going up. I want to be able to reach the greens.
Right. And focusing on the wrong end of the game. I mean, if you can hit it, you heard Maddie say earlier, one of the things she wasn't, when you asked her about her distance, the first thing out of her mouth was, I'm average when it comes to distance on tour, but I'm straight. I'm getting it out in the fairway. I think she only missed one green in her tournament, or one or two greens. So she's accurate. And
4 holes, she didn't make a bogey.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible.
That's unbelievable. That's
know.
Ball striking greatness.
Yeah. And this is a young lady. Yeah, coming off, we're not here in the last year, but has had injuries that, again, could have been, could have become more permanent. And she's managed to turn that around. But she's not chasing this phantom, I've got to have more distance. I mean, the first thing I hear when a student says to me, or think of when a student says to me, I want to hit it further, is they're not understanding the game, how to play the game. It's not about
themselves.
Right, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to work towards getting a little bit more distance, but let's be accurate first. And if you're somebody that's struggling to break 100, around, distance is not your friend right now. There's something else missing. So
what you need to do.
Right, exactly. So as we draw this discussion into a conclusion, so let's talk about the mental comparison. So does comparing your bad day, meaning an amateur's bad day, to a pro's good day provide motivation, or does it create a toxic relationship with the game? So in other words, if they're having a great day out there and you're not so good, sure, you can draw some positives from their good round, the pro's good round, but should we really be comparing it, is my question. And is that sort of, again, go to what we talked about earlier, where it's really not helping you in the long run? What are your thoughts?
Well, go ask the pro how much time he's putting in, and then ask yourself how much time you're putting in. Yep. Have you practiced? What are you thinking about when you're standing over the ball? What are you working on? Most people, I mean, we give thousands of golf lessons a year, and I probably have 2 people that work on their game.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody else is raking and hitting, and expecting a different result and getting depressed when they don't get it.
Definition of insanity.
It's time to look in the mirror,
Yeah, I hear you.
So, again, why are you just trying to browbeat yourself? Don't do that.
Yeah, I would say this as just a final summary for the listeners out there when it comes to comparing yourself to the professionals that we see each week in and week out. Don't compare yourself to their game. Look at what they do, how they prepare, watch their pre-shot routine. Look for little nuggets that you can extrapolate from their game that may benefit your game. Forget about distance, forget about all that. You're not going to hit it as straight as them if you're only playing once a week or once a month or whatever it is, and you're practicing here and there. They're out there every day working on their game. So of course they're going to be hitting, a lot more greens in regulation and so forth, and putting much better than you're going to putt. So, but there are things that you can learn, but don't compare. Don't do a direct comparison because it's not apples to orange. It's not apples to apples. It's apples to oranges. So you've got to put things in perspective, and you've got to find the areas of your game that you struggle with the most and work on those, and then worry about maybe adding a little bit distance down the road. I want to take this last minute or two to acknowledge something for you, Cindy, and that is you recently did a TEDx talk in Naples, Florida, your second one, I believe, that you've done. Tell us a little bit about that experience. It was a knee knocker, as I understand, but congratulations that you were selected to be one of the speakers, and tell us how it went.
It was really scary. I was thrilled and honored, and the Saviano family who put this on are from Boston, and they have a home in Naples, Florida in the winter. They're now retired, and they did a remarkable job. I mean, they just were awesome. So it was really a pleasure and an honor to do this talk for Naples, TEDx Naples. It was the first year. They had over 352 applicants. They chose 15, so I was grateful. And the topic was all lifelong learning. And my talk was about potential and unlocking potential. And I shared my story of always being told I'm not good enough, and how even at the age of 45, when I wanted to play on the Legends Tour, when I called them and said, can I play? They said, you're not good enough. Yeah. You have to qualify. And so what we're talking about today, I had to look in the mirror and say, okay, what's wrong with me? And my husband, who played on the men's tour for 15 years, said, this has nothing to do with your golf swing. It has everything to do with your head. So I had to be willing to look in the mirror, which is my 3-part thing. Get off the nail. Stop whining. If you're sitting on a nail, why can't I play better? I can never do this. I always choke. Shut up. Get off the nail. Look in the mirror. What's wrong with me? Are you afraid to win or afraid to lose? And then plant a seed. So my seed took 4 years of practicing, looking in the mirror, wondering, why do I protect? And I play with clenched butt cheeks. As Maddie said, she just said, Lord, I'm just doing this for you. Well, I play better when I'm ticked off. And we had a player meeting the night before the last round of the Hy-Vee Classic. And I had asked, hey, are we ever going to make it so that so many on the money list are exempt for the next season, like every other tour? And a player got up and said, well, Cindy, our sponsors want famous people to play on our tour. And I was like, did she just say that? And another player got up and said, what are you talking about? Cindy's more famous than you are. She just did that show on the Golf Channel. And I went home that night ticked off, right? And the whole next day, my whole mindset was show them that you can do this. So I was pursuing and not protecting. And that's the way I play better. So for our listeners, figure out how you play best. And that's when I reached my potential. I ended up finishing tied for second. I ended up walking to the 18th tied for the lead. I made par on the 18th hole. My friend birdied 18 or 17. She won by 1. But I finished second on the money list that year. So I went from not being good enough to play to finishing second on the Legends Tour money list. So now I'm good enough, right?
Right.
I reached my potential. I unlocked it. That's why I wrote the book, Take Another Shot. It's never too late to take another shot. At 49 years old, I proved to myself the dream I had when I was 17 to be a star on the tour wasn't going to be a nightmare that would haunt me for the rest of my life. So my mission with all the years that I teach is to teach people, if you really want to get better, you got to look in the mirror. What am I afraid of? And you can do that. And that's why I did the TED Talk.
Yeah, it's great. And I'm looking for it now. Is it available out yet? Is the video
It's
available?
not. It was just a week ago Saturday, and they said it should be ready by like April 10th. And it'll be on YouTube, and I'll share it with you.
Okay. Yeah, do that and let us, keep us posted as we move forward with our shows in the next couple of weeks when it's available, and we'll provide a link and so forth for everybody that they can go and check it out, because I think it'll be a good one. I know you've shared much of your story with me and the listeners here on the show over little snippets here and there, and I think it's a good it's a good journey, and there's a lot of lessons that people can take away from that. So I think it's an important one to share, especially in this day and age, as we talked about earlier. But thank you for sharing that. We look forward to seeing that as it becomes available. All right. A special thanks to Maddie again. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today. Your resilience is an inspiration to every player waiting to break through. And thank you for joining us in the BS Zone for truly a great discussion. That wraps up season 13, episode 4. Be sure to check out the video version of this episode on the iGolf Sports YouTube channel. We will see you next week.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed listening to this week's Women of Golf show. Ted and Cindy wish to thank this week's special guests. Remember to join them every Tuesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern, here on the iGolf Sports Network, or on any of these social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course Spotify. To get updates on the show, you can follow the Women of Golf's Facebook page at www.facebook.com/womenofgolf. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.